Hi everyone, I'm Stephanie Panay. In today's podcast, I'll be reading an essay called Wholeness and Attention. It's taken from my second book, which is called Reflections on A Course in Miracles, Volume 1. The essay was inspired by reading some of Krishnamurti's lectures that he gave to students and in which he would have a dialogue. He was big on investigating thoughts and beliefs with his audience of students rather than telling them all the answers. He didn't want to present himself as a guru. That was a really big deal for Krishnamurti. He was big on Westerners. He talked about them always seeking their knowledge secondhand. They have a habit of relying on a teacher or a guru to give them the answers to everything. And he really hated that. He talked a lot against that kind of thing. So if you have a look on YouTube to see some of the lectures that he gives with his students, you'll see that he always emphasizes, let's look into this together, because the answers, as we kind of accept as being Course in Miracles students or spiritual seekers, generally lie within, and each of us have access to that knowledge. Anyway, one of those dialogues he had with some students in a book, I really can't remember the title of the book, but in that discussion, he was talking about attention and how it differs from concentration. And when I was reading this discussion, it reminded me of some issues I had when I was writing my first book, Above the Battleground. Reflecting on that process of writing, I thought, wow, I could see how I was trapped in concentration and would have been better off trying to acquire the kind of attention that Krishnamurti talks about. So I wrote this essay called Wholeness and Attention after writing Above the Battleground, reflecting on how I could have done things better or do things better in the future when I begin a writing project. Well, I happen to be in the middle of a writing project again. This book is another traditional kind of format book as Above the Battleground was, not essays. And as the process started, it was enjoyable and it flowed. And as time has gone by, I'm finding my mind kind of cramping, feeling like a bit of a vice around the mind as I try to navigate some large parts of editing. And I've accumulated such a large amount of information from research that's kind of hindering my process. I'm a little bit stuck and there's no flow. And as I was experiencing this, I remembered this essay, Wholeness and Attention, and I thought, I need to go read my own work and get some help. So I read it and I thought, yes, that is actually really helpful. So I thought, why not read it out to all of you today? And you might find some help in it too. Of course, it doesn't just relate to writing, it relates to anything. And for Krishnamurti, he would say it relates to every minute of the day. And it's very applicable to practicing the principles of A Course in Miracles and being mindful of where our mind is at. So let's begin. I'll start reading now. Wholeness and Attention. There is a well-known saying in writing circles, kill your darlings. The phrase is advice from American writer William Faulkner, winner of the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1949. Faulkner meant that we need to let go of the bits of our writing we love, but that in the cold light of reason, we know don't really fit. We hold on to those precious bits because we think they are something special, impressive, awesome even. Writing a book takes a lot of work. For most, it involves a great deal of research and time spent going down several avenues only to later discard much of what you've gathered or written. That's normal. After recently publishing my own book, however, I wondered how much time I'd spent focusing on things that had become special to me, only to discard them later because they didn't really further the book's main message or purpose. Could I be more efficient in the future? Was I in a different mindset when going off track to when I wasn't? It didn't take much reflection to realise that going off on a special tangent did indeed involve a particular way of approaching my work. Firstly, I'd get excited about a new avenue I'd discovered. Excitement was quickly followed by obsessiveness and compulsively jumping from one new source of information to another until my thought processes became very, very complex. Whilst energised by the thought of the connections I was making, I also became super focused, absorbed in the task at hand, and, dare I say, niggly. I didn't like being distracted. Indeed, my mind was in a constant battle with anything and anyone who might take me away from my precious task. And just as an aside, with this whole idea of clinging to something special, something precious, it really did bring up the image of Gollum in Tolkien's Lord of the Rings with his precious that he called the ring. Back to the essay. That kind of being absorbed and niggly, that was on what I'd call, in hindsight, a bad day. On a good day, things were quite different. I was far more relaxed. I didn't mind being disturbed, and I didn't feel any sense of urgency. In essence, my mind was a lot quieter. I still mightn't have later included all the information I acquired during these quieter times, but it certainly shaped the end result, and in many cases has been useful to me for other reasons. Reflecting on these two mindsets, I was reminded of Krishnamurti's distinction between concentration and attention. Concentration, said Krishnamurti, is like interest. The interest of a child playing with a toy, for example. Such concentrated interest fully absorbs the child's mind and can be very pleasing. But as soon as the toy is taken away, the child becomes restless. Likewise, adults can become restless if they can't champion a cause, don't have a DIY project, or otherwise can't become lost in something. In such cases, concentration is a distraction from discomfort. It's also a distraction from attending to the mind. That's what Krishnamurti defines as attention, a state in which we maintain an awareness of our mind, of where it's at, and an openness that is receptive. Attention has a much wider scope than concentration. There is also a lack of drivenness with attention. There is no compulsion to act based on fear or trying to become or create something great. And so the mind is relatively still and spacious, allowing us to listen. To attend, then, is to identify with the wholeness, safety, and magnitude of our spiritual self. In contrast, when we are striving, focused on gaining or becoming, we have, to paraphrase the Course, contented ourselves with littleness, and it won't be long before our overzealous enthusiasm turns to frustration and confusion, because a mind identified with the ego will always be in conflict, leading to inefficiency. Subtitle: From Time to Timelessness. The act of listening, of truly attending, is an end in itself because it affirms the reality of our wholeness. If we're listening, we have arrived. There is nothing to strive for. We need do nothing, and so there is no need for time. The quality of what we do from this space will be very different to when we're trying to achieve something for the future or make something happen. I saw a documentary once about a group of budding pianists attending a piano masterclass, and a moment between the instructor and one of the students beautifully illustrated this point. The student, a man in his early 20s, was playing a piece for the instructor, and although he hit all the right notes, there was something a bit off about his performance. After a few attempts by the instructor to convey what she felt was missing, she sat at the piano herself and began to play. "See," she said, "there is no time." It was a wonderful way of describing the difference between the quality of her playing and that of the students. The instructor wasn't playing to arrive anywhere, to do, achieve, or gain anything. She was playing from a place where she had already arrived. That place will also be a place of love because it doesn't ask for anything. Attention, therefore, is a state in which we feel a sense of rest, no matter how busy we appear to be. But how do we achieve it? How do we identify with timelessness? In the Course, the holy instant is a moment in which we choose to step out of the chain of time, to stop striving to gain or avoid something. The holy instant is a moment in the now, but it's not necessarily experienced by trying to bring yourself into the present moment, though that can be relaxing and helpful at times. The Course's now refers to a timeless state that doesn't know of past or future and is a byproduct of forgiveness, of letting go of the shame and guilt behind our judgments, compulsions, and striving. We don't try to be in the now or to concentrate on the present moment, but to remove the obstructions to experiencing it. The following extract from the Course, referring to the timeless magnitude of our self, the spiritual self, and the time-bound littleness of the ego self, also emphasises the Course's path of undoing the negative to experience the positive. Quote, "You don't have to strive for magnitude because you have it. All your striving must be directed against littleness, for it does require vigilance to protect your magnitude in this world." End of quote. We can replace the word magnitude in the above quote with the now, love, peace, or freedom. Our task isn't to seek for these things directly, but to be vigilant for when we identify with the ego's littleness. So, we notice when we're feeling a bit agitated, or our mind's busy, or we've become so absorbed in a task that we don't want to stop and get the glass of water we should have got half an hour ago. I've done that a lot lately. Our thinking is likely to have been more confused, intense, and our attempts at problem solving unprofitable. In our restlessness, there is no quietness, no listening, no inspiration, only endless perspiration. That's when we need to stop, pan out, and observe what we're doing. We've identified with littleness, with shame and guilt, and have let them lead the way. It's simply in observing what we're doing and being aware of the choice we have made that we're able to make a different choice. The truth of who we are will have its own action as we ask for help from the Holy Spirit to look at our decision for the ego with us. We might then feel inspired to take a break, listen to some music, or carry on, but from a larger perspective. The challenge to attending, however, doesn't end with overzealous concentration. There is an equally problematic agent in the mix: procrastination. Concentration and procrastination are two sides of the distraction coin when it comes to attention. Just as "kill your darlings" is a well-known saying amongst writers, so too is the fact that housework never seems so appealing as when there's writing to be done. When you're stuck in compulsive concentration mode, you can't wrench yourself away from work. And when you're in procrastination mode, you can't even countenance the thought of doing it. Procrastination can be another form of resistance to joining with yourself, particularly if we've become mindful of how valuable a particular activity has become as a way of experiencing such joining. I think the Course provides helpful advice for those times when you're not sure whether to lean in and sit yourself and your procrastination down at your desk, or to let yourself take a breather and do anything and everything but write. Regarding doing the Course's workbook lessons, we're told if we feel some resistance when we sit quietly with eyes closed, to wait a few minutes to see if the resistance lessens. If it doesn't, that's fine. We should let ourselves open our eyes and do what we feel to do. Likewise, if we dip our toes into the task that we've been avoiding, we might find that we become interested and happy to continue with it, or that we feel worse or even resentful. Then we should stop and let ourselves off the hook. All this talk of concentration, procrastination, and attention isn't just relevant to writers or any kind of work. It's relevant for every moment of the day, every circumstance, and every decision we face. How do we approach what's before us? Do we assume we're on our own, that it's all up to us, that our livelihood, safety, and happiness depends on our own intellect, body, or talent? If we do, our awareness will narrow down and we'll be in a concentrated, problem-solving mindset. That's heavy going and ultimately lonely. When we find ourselves concentrating hard on the conversation we just had, or whether or not we said the right thing, on what to have for dinner, or what we're planning to do tomorrow, we have narrowed our awareness down to ourselves, alone in the world with the weight of every decision and possibility on our shoulders. To the ego, this is great and satisfying because the ego itself, quote, is the mind's belief that it is completely on its own, end of quote. That's from the text of A Course in Miracles. But we will tire of this eventually, the constant judging, planning, and second-guessing. In the end, what really helps us to attend is to trust that we're not alone, that there is a source of support and love that is open to us for inspiration and comfort, giving us, quote, rest in the midst of every busy doing on which we are sent, end of quote. Then, whatever we do will have a sense of poetry about it. As Plato said, at the touch of love, everyone becomes a poet. And that is the end of the essay. Now, I've just located the book that essay about attention is in. It is called Commentaries on Living, the third series by J. Krishnamurti. And the commentary in which he talks about attention is called Where There Is Attention, Reality Is. Now, I find there's another really interesting section in here about meditation. And I feel that it connects well to what I was talking about in my essay about the now, being in the now, and that the holy instant is a moment in the now, but it's not necessarily experienced by trying to bring yourself into the present moment, that it's a byproduct of forgiveness. So it's a byproduct of attending to the mind or being aware of when you're not coming from your right mind, and then correcting your choice for the ego, acknowledging that kind of thinking is coming from your wrong mind. That process is how you come into an experience of the present. And related to this is the following extract from that commentary on attention from Krishnamurti. And he says this: meditation has significance only when there's an understanding of the meditator. In practicing what you call meditation, so he's speaking to an audience here, the meditator is apart from the meditation, isn't he? Why is there this difference, this gap between them? Without really understanding the truth or the falseness of this apparent division, the results of so-called meditation are similar to those which can be brought about by any tranquilizer that is taken to quiet the mind. If one's purpose is to bring thought under domination, then any system or drug that produces the desired effect will do. Then that sounds a bit controversial, but it's very interesting. I'll carry on with another segment here. Without understanding the whole complexity of life and the everyday reactions from moment to moment, meditation becomes a process of self-hypnosis. Meditation of the heart, in contrast, is the understanding of daily problems. You can't go very far if you don't begin very near. I think that's a wonderful quote. You can't go very far if you don't begin very near. That, I think, is A Course in Miracles process in a nutshell. You begin very near with your ego and the experience you have when you have identified with your ego. You notice this, and this is what attention to Krishnamurti is attention is the beginning of intelligence. And intelligence for him didn't mean IQ, it's not how much reading you've done or your performance on a test. It's nothing like that. Intelligence is like the spark of life, the spark of insight that you gain from being in your right mind, we would say as a Course in Miracles student. And with this in mind, I would like to read out a lesson from the workbook of A Course in Miracles to end this podcast. It is lesson 267 and it's called My Heart is Beating in the Peace of God. Now, why I've selected this one is because it talks about life. Surrounding me is all the life that God created in His love. It calls to me in every heartbeat and in every breath, in every action and in every thought. Peace fills my heart and floods my body with the purpose of forgiveness. Now my mind is healed and all I need to save the world is given me. This idea of attention, being mindful of being in your right mind and when you're not, is that intelligence, that life coming back to you, the spark of intelligence. Back to the lesson, each heartbeat brings me peace. Each breath infuses me with strength. I am a messenger of God, directed by His voice, sustained by Him in love, and held forever quiet and at peace within His loving arms. Each heartbeat calls His name, and everyone is answered by His voice, assuring me I am at home with Him. And now this part of the lesson is a prayer to God. Let me attend your answer, not my own. Father, my heart is beating in the peace the heart of love created. It is there and only there that I can be at home. So this part, let me attend your answer, not my own. So in whatever project or activity or conversation we are engaged in, if we attend to God's answer with a capital A, we attend to the right mind, which means being vigilant for when we're not in our right mind, then we can experience that surrounding us is all the life that God created in His love. We can feel that zest, which we don't have when we're trying to power through life when we're in our wrong mind. I hope this has been of help to you. Tune in again. Thank you. Bye.